Today is day 15, and something that I noticed today is I think the medicine is taking away like a sense of numb that I've had. So when I mentioned, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that I woke up with a sense of like anxiety, well, not anxiety, worry. I think whatever feelings I've ever repressed throughout my life, I'm learning to feel safe again and in my environment and more in control and stuff. That the feelings, it's like the inner me feels okay expressing them, and it's just uncomfortable. So learning through that, but it's been manageable. Um, with that said, I'm going to talk about my experience working in an incredibly toxic work environment. I've actually tried to make this video a couple times and I get stuck because I'm just like, I don't know how much I want to say, or like how to say it. Like, do I tell it in chronological order? Because I don't know if I remember everything in exact chronological order, but I'm just going to share, snippets. It might not be in the exact order, so you can get an understanding of what the workplace was like. First off, I thought it was weird that I moved for this job. It was in Florida. And I thought it was weird, even though they had a school in the same city that had a master program that would make sense to feed into that. Like it would make sense to recruit a lot of people from there. A lot of people on my team, like it was like 5 people on my team, and 2 of us were from out of state. That just seemed weird to me. And I found out that the my team, because it had like an excess budget, like it had a really large budget, the office, I don't know who all in the office participated, but people in the office would take bets on how long people on my team would last. And then based on whatever they bet, they would treat that person accordingly. Like my supervisor was so disrespectful. He never respected boundaries. Like, I don't like it when people lean over me to like type, and he would make it a point to always do that, and then he would get upset if I like try to move out the way. um he would just be incredibly disrespectful, like just belittle. Like he would, like, we had an IM system, and instead of like IMing people, because we were out in cubicles and he was in his office, instead of just IMing us like, hey, can you come here, he would shout at us like we were dogs. um and he would always yell at people, and no one would say anything, but he would just yell and like belittle like people on our team. Um so I try to limit my conversations with him to just work related. And then he got mad one time because I didn't want to ask him about his weekend. He asked me about my weekend, and I was just like, oh, I just kept it brief. And he was like, you're not going to ask me about mine, and he, like, made a scene about that. Um, he made it up. So I worked in a place with billable hours, and with that, it's like a certain amount of your hours have to be billed to a certain project. It's like holding you accountable for your time, and it's rounded to 15 minutes. But with that, your supervisor is supposed to, at least with the company I work for, was in charge of giving me tasks to make sure I met those hours. He would make it a point, like, because he traveled a lot, if I had questions, I would like send an email, and he would just not respond to my questions. He would respond back, but not to my questions. And then he would give me like tasks that I had never done before. So I would have questions, and he wouldn't help me. He was just like, you need to figure it out. And I would have people on my whole team look at it. And then he would just chastise me, like, why didn't you do blah, 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 blah? And it's like, well, you didn't give me any directions at all. And also, everyone on the team, like, looked at this. So you're chastising all of us. But, like, a really big thing that was really fucked up that happened is I was working on a report, and so there are different levels. Like, everyone had the same job title within a team, but it would be ranked, like, let's say A, B, C, D, all the way up, and then after a certain amount of time you just like move up. So there was someone on my team that was like one thing above me, but she wasn't my direct supervisor. But I don't know, they made it very unclear who I should talk to you whenever he was out of the office. Like they would just switch back and forth, so like that I was always wrong. And then I would even like if I try to do things in writing or type it out, they would agree to something in writing and immediately come out and say something completely different verbally. And then if I would like follow up with an email to like, oh, okay, so this is what we just discussed, they would, agree to that. Or they'd be like, no, and they would go back to the whatever they said written, but then come back verbally and say something else. But I say that to say, I was working on a report, and then the girl said, you know what, we're going to start saving our documents in this shared network from now on. And something felt weird about that because I've already had like weird experiences with them. Like it wasn't great. So I saved the copy on on my computer that they didn't have access to, and then I saved the copy on the place that they told me to. And then when I met with him, he was pointing out all these mistakes and everything that was wrong. And I really felt like I didn't do those things because there were shorthands that I never even use in my personal life. Like it just didn't seem like me at all. And I was just like, I was just so like flabbergasted. I never use that word. Um, and then I went back with the piece of paper that he gave me, and then I compared it to the copy that I had saved on my computer that I didn't tell them about, and it was two completely different documents. So it was like, wow, like they're going that extra level. Like, first of all, that could like really fuck up, like, all for a bet, all for a freaking bet because they were unhappy. Oh, that was another thing. Like, they would spend so much time talking about like how miserable their lives are, or like how, I don't know, they'll just compare things that they were unhappy with. And I don't like joining in on conversations like that because it brings me down, especially with people that I don't really get along with. And um or like whenever he would give me a task, he'd be like, this is gonna suck, don't you hate that you have to do this, like this is gonna be miserable, don't you think so? And I was just like, no, I don't think it's that bad. And he had a conversation with me about that, like I should be more negative about the work that I'm about to do, or I should join in those conversations. And a ridiculous thing is I got a feedback that his boss complained that I didn't talk to him enough. But the only time I saw him was on his way to the bathroom. He would pass by me to go to the bathroom, and I pointed that out. And they're like, yeah, you should stop him on the way to the bathroom to make small talk. And then, they pointed out, like, why don't you stop him on the way back to his desk? And I said, because he takes a different way. So he was like, either stop him on the way to the bathroom, or when you see him go to the bathroom, position yourself so like that you can stop him on the way back to his office. Which is like, are you kidding me? And the same person, like him and the office manager, they would hear anytime that he was being disrespectful. Like there was one time, like there was like offices being rearranged or whatever, so he had to share an office with the office manager. And I went in and he was asking me if I knew how to do something on Excel that required a formula. And I told him, like, I don't have formulas memorized because I don't. I just look them up as I need them. And I was trying to explain that to him. And then he said, show me how you would do it. And then I was going to look up the formula to do it. And then again, he stood really close behind me. And like he was hovering, and then I asked, hey, do you mind like giving me some like space? I don't feel comfortable. And he refused. Like he made like a rude comment or whatever, like just making, he was like, you just don't know how to do this or something like that. And I felt really uncomfortable. And then I just started to panic, and I just moved, and I was just like, I'm just gonna either have to do this at my desk, or like I don't feel comfortable right now. And the office manager was just laughing as he just like insulted me and belittled me. Like, he just stood there and laughed. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, are you serious? And another thing is, in my desk, like where my cubicle was, they would gather it to the person's office who was next to mine. And the office manager would like complain about me and gossip and like would say, like, I don't know how things are around there. Like, basically, like, I don't bow down to him enough. And like, he would come up with ways to try to get me fired and try to instigate things with me. Like, he would try to come up with scenarios to instigate me. And I was just going through a really hard time in my life that I this was just too much. First of all, it's too much for anyone to have to deal with, honestly, but especially if like there's a lot going on. Um, it was just ridiculous. And then he reported me to HR that I wasn't communicating enough, and I knew like I really needed to leave because everything that he was claiming about me, I learned had already been reported about him. So what are the chances that every single team member he gets has the exact same problems that he has? And everyone in the office knew that he was so toxic to work for because they would say like pull people aside from his team and be like, is it that bad or whatever? But meanwhile, like they fed into the whole thing, like, and it messes with my mind to be like, was that a part of your strategy? Like, did you bet that I would last longer, so you're playing the nice guy, so like that you I can meet the benchmark of your bet? Like, that's so ridiculous to like get some. That's ultimate gaslighting. Like, I know people throw that around like crazy, but like literally that whole scenario of placing bets of how long you're gonna last and treat someone accordingly, like try to get to alter their perception of what their day-to-day life is like at a job, just like that. Oh my god, it is so disgusting to play around with people's lives like that. um and the company, like, they joke around and like being run as a cult. Like, people say like, um drink the Kool-Aid, or we're gonna go to a an event to drink the Kool-Aid of how great it is to work here. So that was another reason why I didn't really feel comfortable like escalating, just because just the whole, I mean, I was told that the specific office that I was in wasn't a true representation of the company. Like, that was just like a really toxic office, because I talked to someone at this event that I went to, training thing, that had my exact position before me, actually. But I think she had it more in an internship capacity, but she did the same thing. She worked for the same team person, and she had the exact same experience that I had. Like, you know what I mean? And it is not the same exact as in like the office manager tried to fire her, but the same interaction that she had with the supervisor. And it's like, if people are coming and going and having the same complaint about this person, like, why are you protecting him so heavily? Because of your personal life? But anyways, I've had many experiences with toxic workplaces, but this one was a whole new level of like people committed to sabotaging someone just because they didn't get along. And I think I struggle to find uh, I just don't want to lose myself to a job. Like, I don't want to lose myself as a person. I don't want to let any part of me die for a job. Like, I'm not going to die on the inside to keep a job. And it's frustrating because I know how capable I am as an employee. But I've just been unlucky with work environment. Um, also had a this a fly. I had work experience with like a professor was also my boss, and oh my god, talk about delusion. She just set me up for failure. Like, she just wouldn't get, I won't even go too deep into that one. There's just a pattern. I don't understand how supervisors give little to no instruction or guidance, especially if someone's reaching out to you for help, or at least to like look over their work, and then you just like chastise them. So experiences like that, I think, a lot of people can relate to. But the reason why I went into depth about the one that I did is, I'll say it a third time, the office literally placed bets on which team members would last the longest and how long they would last, and treat people accordingly to that. Like it'd be like a whole play for them. We were their entertainment. And for that job, I would wake up in the middle of the night panicking, like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to go back there. Like, I just dreaded being there so much. I think that fly is trying to comfort me. Um, and if I get, sometimes I would get upset thinking about it. Like, it'll just cross my mind every now and then. Um, Not so much anymore, but I just think about like that's their life. Like their whole life is that job. Their friendships are that job. Even when they were talking about stuff to do over the weekend, it involved that job. And I think it's because of the hierarchy of that job. Like they only can have thriving social lives if there's a hierarchy to it, and no one outside of that company is going to care that you're a level C. You know what I mean? Like it's only relevant to that company. So that's why they had their whole lives that way. And I think of like, oh, like I don't want that for myself. But something that, to end this on a positive note, when I was at that training event, even though it was very cult likey, like they would just make all these claims, like if we reduce your billable hours by this much, we would have to get rid of all these programs and stuff. But they didn't show any math, or like they didn't like back up anything that they were saying. They were just making these wild claims. But one of the top people, I don't know his position. He was one of the part. You had to be a part of a current employee to have ownership of stock. And so he was one of them, and that's like a high thing. Um, you have to be a certain rank and be with the company for so long. I don't know. But anyways, he said something that really stuck with me, and he said he really likes mistakes because when people make a mistake, because that's the opportunity to learn, and he really likes big mistakes because there's more lessons to be learned from that. And I really like that approach to making mistakes. That like I just remember thinking this is not at all what my supervisor is like. Like he sets up situations for people to make mistakes just so he could chastise them. Like in meetings, he would like stare at his phone if it was one-on-one meeting. Like he is just so disrespectful, beyond disrespectful. And everyone knew, but they just wanted to keep the game going, so they stood by his side. But yeah, I just have to remind myself of that thing. Like, first of all, I learned about different dynamics. I learned about why people are the way that they are a little bit just from experiencing it, and like having to like he was just a very insecure individual. But just realizing like, oh, something that I talked about in my last therapy thing, my therapist brought up that like I was conditioned to feel the need to fix things and fix situations and fix other people, but like I have to recognize like that's a problem, but that's not my problem, and that's not a necessarily a dismissive thing in a bad way. Like it's just me setting a boundary, which setting boundaries, it's foreign to me. But I was able to look at that back then, even though I didn't fully understand, and just realize like this is a problem that I cannot fix. Like all that will happen is I just felt like I needed to get out. Like that was a strong signal, and I left. Like I just couldn't, and I'm glad that I did. It coincided perfectly with like escaping being there for COVID. Like if I would have stayed there even just a little bit longer, I would have been stuck there for COVID. And oh my gosh, like the universe really helped me out with that one. But like as much, as I wondered like was that necessary, I learned a lot about myself. Like there was just so much that happened in that 6 month time period that I will never take back. And it just really taught me about ways that I never want to treat other people. I never want to make other people feel the way that I did in any capacity at all. So even though that was like a very exaggerated way of looking at it, like, because it would also be things of like purposely excluding me from conversations. Like they would try to force me into conversations, and then I'd be like, okay, I will, I'll bite. And then they would like either go out of their way to disagree with me or just like try to make me feel stupid. And it's like, why am I gonna like continue to be a part of this? Um, and yeah, I'm just thinking that like it is just very disheartening to me that it's not enough for people to go to their job and do a good, put in good effort and like do their best and leave. Like, I was fortunate enough to have my family help me out of that situation, but some people don't have that. And I was thinking if I didn't have that support and had I been stuck in that situation, like it would have deteriorated me. And it's just wrong that things like that exist. That's what makes me angry, is like the most angry about thinking about it, is I'm able to leave. Oh, there was a situation that they talked about, like there was an intern who had a baby, but she was an intern, so she didn't have like the benefits and stuff. But she had the baby, let's say like Thursday, and was back like that Monday. And like she was like crying and stuff like that. Baby blues is a real thing, so it's postpartum. And one of the like managers, or yeah, whatever, was like mad, like why didn't anyone just hire her? And then they're like, oh, because she didn't have a degree. It's like, you choose who you want to hire. Like, was she a strong employee and all this stuff? And I was like, yeah, but and even if you disagree with that specific situation, the point that I'm trying to make is there was just a lack of empathy for other people. Like it was almost like if you were on this team that they were placing bets on, they didn't see you as an equal. They just saw you as like a video game character. You know how like there's like you can play or you can go against the PC. Like you were just like the PC mode. So they didn't have to respect you fully. They gave the perception of respecting you, but it really wasn't there. And I just noticed with people who are this miserable, they feel the need to surveillance other people. To, I don't know, because yeah, truly misery loves company. Um, and I refuse to like stoop down to the level of like you're surveillancing me, so I'm gonna surveillance you, or you're doing this to me, so I'm gonna do this to you. Like, because I don't want to become like that, and I don't want to think like that. And I don't want to have conversations with people just because I know there's something that they can give me. Like I don't want to turn to that person. Like I don't want to use other people. And like they would say like, oh, it's not really using other people, it's, and then like basically say you're using other people and like strongly promote that. And I've noticed like there's certain work environments where like this really thrives off, like corporate environments, like where you were trying to climb up the ladder and stuff like that. But there's a difference between playing office politics and literally placing bets on other people's lives like they're not human or they're not equal to you. There's not really much more to be said outside of like giving other examples, which they are many more. But I think I painted the picture. Like I think you guys get it. And if you don't, you can ask questions in the comments. But going back to checking in, I already checked in the beginning, but I'll say again. I'm just learning different coping mechanisms as like different old feelings resurface. And again, I'm very fortunate that it's manageable and I have support. And I'm just really excited for day 42, just to see what the landing place is going to be. Not that that's going to be the end of the journey, right? Like there's going to be more days and there might be adjustments to the dose and stuff like that. But yeah.